Hey everyone, welcome to Dust Jacket Radio, Season 2, Episode 5.
This is going to be a fun episode. It's audio only today. We're
Yes,
not going to have any video.
No technicalities this time. It's just, we just wanted to take a break and just do an audio only. But for you YouTube watchers out there, do not fear. You're not going to stare at a blank screen. John has hidden a surprise image in his YouTube video.
And I guarantee you it's not going to be the Exorcist girl.
No.
It might be the Exorcist girl.
No, but I hope you're enjoying Season 2 so far. It's actually our break episode. We can actually recap on a couple of things. And also, I would like to take this opportunity to thank our authors that we've had so far. You know, we've had Dustin for the Stephen King. I want to thank him. Jack Trevino for the 50th anniversary. And he brought a surprise guest.
Yeah, that was Tony.
Tony Marbury.
Marbury. She has a difficult last name. Marbury.
Yeah.
Marbury.
Then we had McPherson here.
Yes.
With Robert McPherson, so that was awesome.
And Dustin was actually not an author, by the way. He's just one of our guests.
Yes, and we need to have him back on the show.
He is, yes. If you watched that episode on Stephen King, if you haven't yet anyways, I highly recommend it. It was fantastic. He's a good musician. He's a bass guitarist for a local band here in San Antonio. And a very fun individual to talk to. He's getting married right now, so he's kind of been busy lately.
Yeah.
But I have subsequently, connected with him on Facebook. I'm excited to talk to him about the Dark Tower series as I go through that journey.
So we're actually going to talk about what we've been reading. John, and the reason why I want to do this, I've noticed John, is he changed his whole lifestyle. And he'll tell you a little bit about it and his morning activities. But I've noticed he's been updating his Goodreads like every morning at 5 to 5:30.
That's correct. That's my Goodreads.
I have notifications off on everything except my Goodreads, but that one goes off.
Yeah, right.
And Dustin's right behind you at 7 a.m.
Yeah. Well, it's nice to know what your friends are reading, That's kind of funny because I know we're like a subculture. Nobody I know really pays that much attention to Goodreads, whereas I do. I think it's a really fun social media experience. Goodreads, if you're listening, you should definitely be paying us to use your
turn on your notifications on Goodreads.
Yes, it's a lot more. It's really fun, honestly. So, anyways, lately, the reason that's coming on at 5 a.m., by the way, I've started this new personal development theory. I'm like 4 or 5 weeks into it now. And the first week was rough. Second week was a little less rough, and then it just got easier and easier. But I've been getting up at 4 a.m. every single morning. And the reason I started doing this was because a lot of the creatives that I really like, my favorite authors, some really famous scientific minds, I had read that they always get up super early in the morning.
Was it the Red Circle book that got you going?
The
Navy SEAL one?
The Navy SEAL one? No, actually, yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that because that was a really good book. But he didn't talk about that. But there's a Navy SEAL that Jacob actually posted a video about this.
I motivated him.
Yes, he did. He did motivate me. It was I forget what that Navy SEAL's name was though.
I don't remember, but he was like on your ass and waking up.
Yeah, he's talking about how great it was, and that was like literally a week after I started it. I was like, wow, this is perfect. It matches up exactly with what's going on. Anyway, so the goal is you get up at 4 a.m. every day. You just adjust your life to it. The first 4 hours of the day are going to be your most productive. After you get over your initial grogginess, your mind is at sharpest right after you've gone through your REM cycles and your sleep has been you're at your peak right then. Your mental peak for creativity is going to be first thing in the morning. Now, like Hemingway would get up in the morning, he'd write just so that he could go to the bar by noon. And he had to get paid so he could keep his alcohol addiction met. My other favorite author is Murakami. He does the same thing. Gets up at 4 a.m.
You know, it's funny. I read that at the J.P. Morgan library that had his writings because J.P. Morgan has most of Hemingway's original manuscripts. And there was an article about that. He needed to be at the bar by noon.
Yeah, it was, I think, right till noon, bar by 1.
Yeah.
So he had an hour in between. But typically it was like 12:20 that he was at the bar. But he was very cordial with his bar appointment. Anyways, he's, if you've ever, Hemingway's just
But you know what's crazy? You don't see that in his writing.
Yeah, I know. But that's the thing is he's always sober when he writes.
Yeah.
He always gets, he wakes up, he's like, oh, fuck, I drank too much yesterday, but I'm going to write now.
This is what I should have done.
And we had a great episode with Justin where we talked about Stephen King. Same thing. He wouldn't drink before he wrote, but he would drink after he wrote. a lot of very famous writers were that same way. Steinbeck hit the whiskey hard, but he didn't do it while he was writing. It's just something about the whole process. I think you drink the depressant afterwards, and that maybe changes your thinking. And I think that you maintain those little nuggets of information you gain while you're inebriated, and then you start writing about them the next day. That's at least my theory on it. But I quit drinking altogether. That's part of my lifestyle change. So I don't know.
Did you?
Yeah.
You know what's funny, and this is going off. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we're gonna treat us like a radio show, but
yeah, it's coffee talk.
Yeah, my wife brought that up about you. She was like, "Have you noticed John has been like really strange?" And I was like, "Really?" And I think it's because he stopped drinking. Yeah.
I've been strange, like
no, like he's always been like. I was like, maybe he's not drinking. No, you answered it.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I'm
not like strange in a bad way. It's just like
just different.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
but you know, it's crazy how even the littlest things, that's how alcohol affects you.
Yeah.
Or that lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I don't drink.
Yeah, right?
Yeah. I thought you followed me in my footsteps.
Yeah, honestly, I mean, it's not maybe this definitely was a part of it.
Actually, I had a beer this weekend. One Shiner. Mm-hmm. It felt weird.
And it's not like
I didn't even finish it.
I'm not a complete fuddy-duddy. I'll still drink with my friends on occasion. I mean, it's very sparingly though. Mm-hmm. Now it's like once every couple of months where I'll be like, okay, I'm gonna drink this weekend. You know, it's like a production though.
Yeah.
And I'm really happy with that. A lot of people, they drink it. You know, it's okay if you like to drink all the time, but I find my energy level's gone way up. My mental activity's higher. I mean, I'm a lot more fidgety and twitchy as a result, but I'm okay with that.
And real quick before I forget, for all y'all listeners and watchers out there, if this is your first time joining Dust Jacket Radio, or this is the first season, or this is like you've been keeping up since we started with Daryl Lyons, that's actually our official first episode, which was our author interview. We actually did some episodes, we call them like test runs.
Yeah.
And we did like Paulo Coelho, and we did an episode on Goodreads and so on and so forth. Mm-hmm. But I wanted to talk about that, and I think it was a good discussion. I think we should start on with this is like the music thing. Mm-hmm. You remember you asked me a question of what music do I listen to when I read? Mm-hmm. And I've noticed now, like, I cannot read in a quiet room anymore.
Really?
I have to listen to like symphony music.
That's funny.
I either have it on Symphony XM, or if I have if I'm near the TV, I'll put it like Saturday I put Vivaldi on. I put it in the iTunes on the Apple TV, and I'll just let it play, and I'll read. But before we go into this rant, we should redo those episodes for those guys, because I remember you brought it up with Dustin earlier this season that you said we did a Paulo Coelho one, and it kind of made me like, man, you know what? We should redo it now.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's
now that we got the test runs done with, and
everything's a lot more comfortable.
It was unfortunate I deleted them, but I think it was a good choice.
Yeah, absolutely. It's you got growing pains when you're starting to learn how to do this. But I wanted to follow up on the music thing. That's very interesting. Do you find your mental activity goes up when you listen to music, or? I think
so, and it makes me more engaged in the story. Like right now, I told you I'm reading Miss Peregrine's series, Particular Children.
Yeah.
And
Ransom Riggs wrote that, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I forgot to mention, I'm really bad at not giving authors credit.
Yeah.
But anyways.
I know, you get so caught up in it. It's a regular conversation.
No. Yeah. So it's an amazing story. Before even getting into it, I get more into it because the story, it jumps back and forth from modern day and to time travel into 1947 without spoiling anything. Mm-hmm. But with the symphony at the 1947 realm, it just makes me feel more in scene. Like even with The Alchemist with Paulo Coelho, I felt more relaxed reading it with symphony music, or I'll listen to something that's around that era, and it makes me read it faster.
That makes sense.
Smoother.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense.
It helps my imagination. I don't know.
Is
it a crutch?
No, it's not a crutch at all. No, yeah, that's not. I think anything that adds to your experience in reading, you should do. My friend, really good friend, Aaron Wong. I agree. He was one of my roommates when I was living in California. He's an English major, wants to be a lawyer. Has to read tons of books for his English major, and he goes to Sacramento State. They have a fantastic English program there, by the way. But it requires him to read essentially, I think about somewhere between 30 books a semester, 30 to 40 books a semester, which is, like 3 or 4 books a week almost. and he's always reading. Like that was what he had to do to keep up with that workload. And he couldn't. He says he could not read without listening to. And he listens to like Kid Cudi and rap music while he's reading.
What?
Yeah, right. So I'm like, what? And that's exactly what I said. And I was like, but he's like, nah, man, it works for me. Don't question it. It works. Okay.
Yeah.
And I was like, hey, I'm not angry at you. I'm like, I want to know. I want to jump in your mind for a minute here. Like,
What's going on in there?
yeah, like how can you listen to lyrical music while you're reading a book? I think that would confuse me. But at the same time, he is a fun person to talk to about anything that he's read. He's got really very good opinions on everything he's read. So the process works for him. It adds to him. It keeps his mind going. He doesn't listen to the words. It's just the whole emotional ride that it brings him on.
Mm-hmm.
Helps him get activated, and then his reading gets enhanced by it. Does that make sense?
Because you went to the normal college scene, so you went on campus college, and
Mm-hmm.
I did the whole online thing.
Mm-hmm.
Now that we're entering basically November, you have any pointers for people in college right now?
Well, my major was communications, so broadcasting, stuff like that.
But I mean, you have any pointers for these guys to keep reading and ways to fill time?
So yeah, but obviously, as a communications major, you have a lot of free time. That was my point. But at the same time, the guys I was living with in college, and I mentioned one of my roommates, Akshay, who's a big Star Trek fan, Voyager, Enterprise. I'm sorry, Enterprise was his big thing, and I got to have some fun conversations with him about that. But that's another. Anyways, he's a pharmacist. He works for a pharmaceutical company now in quality control. And then I have Alistair Thomas, who's on his way to be a doctor. Those were both of my roommates. So very, heavy workload. You got a guy he's double majoring in psychology and biology. That's Alistair. And then you've got Akshay, who's going after chemistry. So I'm watching their workloads unfold, and then I'm the communications major, so I'm always like, whoa. But if you even with that heavy workload though, Akshay and Alistair still were able to maintain
a good reading habit.
Good reading habit, yes, exactly, and that's why we're such good friends growing up. I mean, the reading habit. They watched shows, we played games together, all that stuff. We still had a social life while we were going through college, and that's just about good time management. Being organized and planning that time out is important. Akshay and I were able to be social in addition, like we went out and partied a little bit because, you got to do that in college, right? So it's important to do that, but just on the right days. You can't do it every day.
No.
There's no way. I used audio lectures so that I could, because there's only like a limited window where I'm really productive. If I'm being completely honest,
It's like 30 minutes. I know.
Yeah,
No,
exactly.
That's why the podcast is 30 minutes, guys.
Yeah. I got my ADHD going, but I found that I would record my professors and I would listen to them after the fact too, and that's always a great way. Instead of audiobooks, I would do my recorded lectures, and that's a great way to get my studying in while I'm driving, while I'm doing my other activities, working out, whatever it's going to be. I'd listen to each lecture about 2 or 3 more times, and that way I wouldn't need to study as much because I'd just listen to it and be actively engaged with it. So that was my little trick for not having to study as much because I'd review it on a repeat basis.
Mm-hmm.
And that way I was able to read a ton, I had a full-time job, I had a full schedule load, and still had a social life, which I think is pretty impressive. But, a communications major definitely added to it was not as intense as it could be. My roommates had a full course load, and then, they tried to have social lives too. But I helped them with that time management stuff, and that's just about, Alistair actually taught me the trick on the audiobook stuff. He would listen to him at 3x speed. He'd go through his lectures in like 15-20 minutes.
Oh shit!
That were like an hour and a half long. He'd listen to it 2x speed, and you got to learn how to do that. But anyways, that's a tip for you guys. And then when you're reading, plan it out.
Mm-hmm.
Have your week planned out. Think about what you're gonna read.
So from knowing your Goodreads, you've been reading a lot of nonfiction.
Yes.
We swapped.
Yeah, you're all fiction now, and
Yeah,
I'm all
I don't know.
nonfiction.
I've been on this fiction ride lately.
Uh-huh.
I'm gonna have to go to nonfiction soon.
So let's enough about me. We've talked about me for like a bit now. Let's talk about you. How's the fiction journey going, Miss Peregrines? How do you like that?
It's awesome.
That's a good answer.
I know I could have gotten more into it. No,
No,
it's actually pretty good. For this series, for the audience, the target audience, it's really good. Read the book, guys. Don't watch the movie.
Okay.
There's so much difference already just by even watching the trailer. I'm just kind of like, I don't want to watch the movie now because I just finished reading the book. But
I know that's
and it's a good transition too from book to book. Like I hate when you finish one series and then you go into the second series, and I hate when books waste pages on like let's recap.
Mm-hmm.
No, this one is like, all right, let's jump into it. And what I loved about Miss Peregrine too is I like how they threw in photographs.
Yeah.
And 1940 style of each character.
Okay.
And even in the book, she kind of gives you a gist on how it looks. Like, so you might think you're at the end of the chapter, but no, it's another photo of like, okay, this is where we're at.
Mm-hmm.
So you can get an idea of where you're at in the scenery wise in the book. So I thought that was a really good tool for younger readers.
Okay. What are some of the strongest points of the writing style that Ransom Riggs uses?
It was a fair balance of detail.
Okay.
It's not overdone. It's not underdone. Because with that age group that I feel like they're concentrating on.
Which age group is that, by the way?
I would say from 8th grade to senior.
Okay, so yeah, teenagers.
Yeah, it's basically a YA. But it can go for younger readers too if their reading level. If you have an average, avid reader at 6th grade, 7th grade, which you do now.
Absolutely.
But
kids are getting smart. We poo-poo the new generation, but
damn millennials.
Right. I'm still a millennial. But
Are you? Are you considered a millennial?
I guess that's what I asked somebody. They said that I was. I was born in 1990.
I think I'm an X. Generation X.
I think you're X. I might be.
And I think the generation after mine is Generation Pepsi.
Really?
Or something like that.
What's it? We're the generation with no name, honestly. We keep changing it. It's like millennials, the internet generation, or X, Y. Anyways.
You're not the internet generation. You'll be the internet generation is when you were waiting for AOL dial-up.
I did wait for AOL dial-up, I'll have you know. Did you ever wait for an AOL dial-up growing up? Sound guy? No, I'm sorry. I'm just talking to some third party here. It's Jacob's brother. But anyways, I definitely remember that noise.
So what's coming up next, actually, and it's book and it's in part of the literature world, and I want to share this. Comic Book Men premiered recently on AMC.
Comic Book Men?
Yeah, another episode of Comic Book Men.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So if anyone doesn't know about Comic Book Men, it's just a bunch of guys sit around, and it formed out of a podcast, what we're doing right now, and they sit around and talk about comic books.
Yes.
And their life at the comic book store that Kevin Smith owns.
Yeah.
And I think it's called Bob and Jay's Secret Stash.
Secret Stash. Oh,
there
okay.
you go. Yeah,
that's
it's
cool.
in New Jersey, and I've been there. I have a shirt from them, but it's amazing that I feel that for the nerds out there that this show is still going on. I think it's like season 4 or 5 already.
Yeah.
I was never expecting for that to continue on because I was like, this is not going to pick up because I didn't think that, comic books that had that much of a following as in people for AMC network. I was like, yeah, I see this going on and then going right back to podcasts. But hey, more power to them. And if they keep sharing the worlds of imagination, I think they should continue on.
Well, he's such a fantastic creator, by the way.
Yeah.
Sound Bob. What's his?
Kevin Smith.
Kevin Smith. Yeah. So Kevin Smith, I've listened to several of his podcasts, and he gets big names on his show. He is very connected. So I mean, I've heard him talk to Mark Hamill about the Joker, and anything he talks about, he's super knowledgeable. It's Fat Man on Batman is his podcast.
Yep.
If you want to watch that.
Yeah, on SmodNet.
Yeah.
That's his company or whatever.
Yeah. So not only is he very entertaining and funny, but he's also extremely knowledgeable on all the subjects. So it's very easy to listen to him and get excited about it because you're laughing along with him, and he makes it really cool. So that's why it works so well. And he writes. He writes several movies. He's a consultant for comedy writing all over the place.
Yeah. Well, he wrote a few scripts recently. He wrote and directed an episode on Supergirl. He wrote and directed a show on The Flash. And I heard now there's a newer episode on Supergirl that he's gonna throw some elements of a script that never took off. I think it was Superman Lives. I think it was one of the movies that flopped.
Huh.
I think it was that time that you were at my house and we were watching that documentary.
Yes. Okay.
But they're gonna take elements from that and add it to the show somehow. But he's gonna, for the episodes that he's directing, he's gonna write it and probably produce most of it. Excuse me. But I can't wait to see it. I think he's a really great writer.
Mm-hmm.
I think he did a really great job when he wrote the Daredevil series. So
he wrote.
You know what though? We it's been a long time since I read a comic book lately.
Yeah, I know,
a
right?
graphic novel.
Well, you get caught up. There's only so much you can read.
Yeah.
It's I understand. What's the last comic book you read?
You don't want to know. You're gonna be mad at me.
No, it's okay. I swear I won't get mad.
It was the whole like Batman Returns series that long ago.
Wow. Okay, I'm not mad at you. I'm just surprised. That's I'm not even mad. I'm just a little sad that you haven't been able to enjoy comics in that long.
There was one that we got from our local comic book store, and I haven't got to it. My wife read it and she was like, "Oh, you should read it." Don't ask me the title of it because it's not on top of my head right now.
No, that's okay.
No, I'm sorry, listeners. Just
yeah. Hey, man. You know, we because of what's what's unique about you and I is our tastes are so varied. We don't really focus on one niche thing. We're always reading a broad spectrum. We have a very liberal application of what we're going to read next.
Yeah.
And we're always and then like we don't even try and focus it. We just broaden our horizons more and more the more we talk to people. And like interacting with you, I've started to do more and more nonfiction myself, and I've been loving the whole transition over to it. And there's a lot to be gained from it, and then there's a lot to be gained from fiction, like you've noticed, I'm sure, as you've been reading more and more fiction.
I think it's helping me more as a writer for the book I'm writing. So it kind of gives me an idea and forming my own style too of elements I try to add. So I'll take a little bit of here, and I'm talking about not plagiarism. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the styles of the way they describe things. You know, one writer does it one way, another writer does it another, so on and so forth. Yeah. So I take all that and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to take a little bit of this and a little bit of that and a little bit of this, and not words or verbatim. I'm talking about just strictly style.
Oh, I understand exactly what you're talking about.
So
the active and passive voice of the author, where you're describing you're painting a picture with words, is extremely difficult, and it's not something that we do every day. So you have to read and see how other people do it to get an understanding of how to do it yourself. It's not something you can just sit down and do. Most people can't do that anyways, unless you read a lot. It's just not possible. I don't think.
And speaking of which, and guys out there, I know this is a bold move, and if you have the freedom to do it, I think you should do it. But next year, I'm giving my wife the opportunity to not work for 1 year, so she can concentrate on a full-blown novel.
Wow, that's going to be exciting.
Yeah,
Alex has a lot of energy, and I'm excited to see that.
Yeah, I know it's going to be a little bit difficult because we'll have a newborn by then, but I think it can be done.
Absolutely.
Especially when she has no classes to prep for and for, her students. And
yeah, no, absolutely. That's the biggest encumbrance to good literature being produced, I think, is that everyone has to be so busy to keep up with just the way of the world that you gotta work to live here nowadays.
How's your book coming along?
Mine?
Did you scrap it?
Yeah, I scrapped it and I had to change it out. So I'm more.
Are you taking elements away from it?
Well, I don't like to, because as soon as I talk about it, it's like
don't just rough around it a little bit.
I'll do the very broad stuff. So yes, I like certain elements of it, but ultimately I'm going to put it on hold because I read another book that was basically the same thing, and it was basically I realized that the real driving force of the book was just the unique premise that I had come up with, which I didn't want to rely on anymore. I kind of wanted to rely more on my ability to communicate well through the book, my skills as an author rather than the unique premise, which is often it's a crutch that a lot of authors lean on. Honestly, inexperienced authors lean on. So, anyways, I felt like I just scrapped that, but I'm still working hard on a new one that's going to be fun, I think.
So in December, before we take the Christmas break, and by the way, in December, guys, I know we're still about a month out, but we're going to take a 2-week break for the winter break, just because we both have families to visit, and we're both going to be busy. So this is a full warning. We'll let you know in another episode, give you reminders. But before we go on this winter break, I was going to ask you, do you feel comfortable and we should do an episode of The Alchemist? Another one?
Absolutely. I'd love to talk about it.
Do you mind reading it again?
Yeah, no, not at all.
It's an amazing book.
Yeah, that's.
I think we should have Dustin on it.
Yeah, Dustin, he really liked it, so we'll definitely get him on that. What was I gonna say? I have a few books that I just read every year, and I think The Alchemist is now among them. I read it already this year, but I'm gonna probably read it again. And then, I don't know about you. Do you have any books that you read on a repeat basis, just over and over and over again?
Yes, I do.
Yes.
Band of Brothers.
Okay.
By Stephen Ambrose.
Okay.
Which actually, that is one of the non-fictions I recently read, and I lied. It wasn't just all fiction. I read another Steve Ambrose book, and it's the Eisenhower one.
Oh, you were telling me about that the other day.
Yes.
That sounded fantastic. And Ambrose wrote that?
Mm-hmm. He is such an amazing historian.
Yes. It's nice when you can get somebody that can bring it to life like that. That's cool.
I think they should do, because Steven is so elaborate with his writing.
Mm-hmm.
His writing was so good. They turned a whole HBO miniseries of Band of Brothers.
Mm-hmm.
I think they should do this one for Eisenhower. Maybe like an anniversary of how many years he was, when he was president, or when he, was Allied commander of World War II. So.
Yeah, that's an interesting premise. And honestly, at a certain point, you can do stuff like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a cool point. Actually, that's a good pitch almost. Where there's a lot of TV series that could be made that they don't, and it's just. I wonder how, and would that be good? And would there be enough for like a 12 or 13 episode series on Eisenhower?
I think yes, because it can cover down from.
That would be dramatic, and they'd able to get.
Actually, yes, because there's parts. It wasn't a great life. He had tough issues that he had to deal with, and I think that's the whole thing about a series or a miniseries. And you probably hear this of all your Audible classes that you take on writing.
Mm-hmm.
For anything to be successful, you still have that. You have to have that key conflict. Mm-hmm. It can't be like, oh, we get along, we're holding hands, and just follow us around this adventure.
Yeah.
You can't have that. You have to have conflict. And even that's the rule for dialogue. Mm-hmm. And correct me if I'm wrong, right? Most dialogue, it needs to be a conflict, and if not, it's going to be a boring dialogue.
Yeah.
So that's this. I think that's the same aspect as a show.
Actually, no. That was a joke. You see, now it's a dialogue. It's more interesting because it's... No, that's not true. Argue for it.
Yeah.
I think it's great when people agree with each other.
In his story, I think it's there for it to happen.
Yeah, you think that the conflict needs to be there the whole time. Essentially, that's an interesting point that you bring up.
They should film some of it here in San Antonio. He met his wife here.
Oh, he lives in San
Antonio? And the house that he used to live in is still standing here at Fort Sam.
Wow. Johnson, my dad was talking the other day. I was talking to my dad about Johnson has a ranch nearby too.
Yeah, in Johnson City.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, he has a whole damn city named after him. Of course he has a ranch here.
Yeah. So, former President Johnson. I didn't know Eisenhower was from Texas too.
Yep.
That's cool. That's really cool. So it's interesting that you brought that up, that there needs to be conflict. Because essentially when you boil it down to it, and I learned this in my Audible books on writing, is that every single book is about one of two premises. Every movie you've ever watched, every single story is one of two premises. It's stranger comes to town or hero takes a journey.
Yep.
And that's it. Everything else could be, and it's you could name anything, and I'll tell you which category it's in. And that's an interesting thing to start doing with your book clubs, guys. I'm just telling this to you, listeners. If you're in a book club, if you're not in one, find one. It's awesome. If you can't find one, make one. Right?
Yep. Goodreads, you can easily create one.
You gotta start talking to people about books. It makes the whole experience so much better. And I don't like to. We're limited here because you're not reading along with us, so it's difficult to not spoil stuff. And anyways, but I digress. It's fun to decide which of the two it is, and then you get to look at that story and compare it to other Hero Takes a Journeys or other Stranger Comes to Town, right? And really, I say Stranger Comes to Town, but really it's just a new character is introduced to a person, right?
Mm-hmm. Hold on, let me play the music for you. Yeah, that's the hero's music right there.
That's it right there.
Yeah.
I can hear it now. But you see what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
Let's play a game. I'm gonna name a book, and I'm gonna see if you can name if it was Stranger Comes to Town or Hero Takes a Journey.
Ooh. Okay.
So let's start off with Miss Peregrine's Peculiar Journey.
Hero.
So Hero takes a journey, right? So he goes to a new place and new experiences, right? Okay, now let's go.
Actually, it depends on who's.
But
if he's narrating, because it's narrating himself. He's on a adventure.
Yeah, exactly.
But if you would have turned it around, he'll be a stranger in town.
Exactly, and sometimes could be
a mixture of
we can do
both.
it with movies too, because movies are the same medium, right? So
Mhm.
you could take like a Woody Allen movie, like Annie Hill, for instance.
Yep.
That would be. Have you seen Annie Hill?
No.
Okay, well that would be an example of Stranger Comes to Town, even though it's just him meeting a new character.
What about Stranger Things?
Stranger Things? That's Hero Takes a Journey, right? Technically, it's also it's kind of both, right? Yeah. If you haven't seen Stranger Things, that is kind of a Stranger Comes to Town thing as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would argue that Stranger Comes to Town. That's not Hero Takes a Journey. That's Stranger Comes to Town.
The girl.
The girl is a stranger, and that's.
But what about the journey for the brother?
And
the sister.
Well, so the journey is the crux of the journey, though, is the introduction of an outside character, though, right?
No, it's true.
So that's why it's
Stranger Comes to Town.
Stranger Comes to Town. So that's a good. See, that's a fun.
Mm-hmm.
That's where you get to decide where the whole story, the conflict is. Then that's always the conflict is either the internal journey the hero is taking, or that an outside force is being introduced through a person. So that's. Anyways, that's a fun way to look at books from now on. Is that what's going on here? Like Batman, each and every individual episode of Batman or Superman or whatever, it could be one of those two things, right?
Yeah.
It could be that Batman develops personally by a journey that he goes on by taking somebody out, or a new person is introduced, and then that creates conflict within, like the Justice League, for instance. That's a common theme.
True.
Where they bring in a new hero, and it's like all this conflict arises because of that. Anyways, it's fun to look at things like that.
All right. We think this will be it for our coffee talk?
Yeah. I think we hit on some cool stuff, some fun stuff to look at while you're reading. Here goes to town.
Sorry, guys. This is honestly, this is what we talk about when we're at Starbucks.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
weird. We just wanted to share it with y'all.
So, and then nice. Sounds like it was interesting.
Still.
So there you go. And then the book club thing. Get back to us on if I kind of want to hear what other people's book clubs are reading. I know that's kind of a weird question to just throw out there, but I want to hear about some good books that book clubs are diving into. And
if you live locally, the mayor of San Antonio has a book club, and you'll hear more about that next week.
Yes, that's all relevant to next week. If you guys like this conversation, if you want to hear more like it, let us know, and we can start doing more of these.
I'm sorry. Before we even let you go, if you do have problems finding a book club, go to your local bookstore like Barnes & Nobles. They have book clubs there already created that you should be joining, or your nearest public library. So, sorry to interrupt you there.
No, you didn't interrupt me at all. And it is difficult to get the time cut out to read. Everyone has busy lives, and not everyone has the luxury of being able to get up at 4 a.m.
Yeah.
It's not everyone has a mental fortitude to do that. It's you versus the day, people. So either you're weak or the day's going to beat you.
And before we
end
this episode, what book are you going to read next?
So the next,
you're going to finish a book that you're reading.
The next book I'm working on right now is I'm going to dive back into fiction, and I'm really excited to read the Dark Tower series and talk about that with Dustin. So we talked about that. I haven't read that before. I
haven't either.
I've read Stephen King before. I never tackled this Dark Tower series, so I'm really excited to do that. And there's another one that I'm really looking forward to. And actually, we didn't get to talk about it, but I read this fantastic book. I guess we'll talk about it off. It was by Corey ten Boom, called The Hiding Place. It takes place on occupied Holland in World War II, and it's totally nonfiction. It's totally true about a watchmaker's daughter named Corey. ten Boom she's the author, and she has an amazing story. We try not to talk about religion and politics here, and the book has very religious undertones. And I'll be the first to say that I'm not a religious person, but at the same time, I really, really enjoyed the book. Just from a moral aspect of it, just looking at how her faith guided her to be such a moral person. She's like the gold standard for how a human being should be. Her father and her just took in every single person that was in need. Because all these Jews are being prosecuted. They took them all in. They helped them all out. Took on giant risk themselves. And they just started, God's going to work it out. God's going to work it out. And it would be nice if people, like, it's almost like, it'd be nice if people could just do that. You know, like, it's okay. It's going to work out because it's a good thing. I should just do it because it's a good thing. But anyways, that's a whole separate section there.
I think the next book I'm going to read, it's going to be nonfiction. And I've had this book for a while. And you've seen it on my bookshelf. And this is the one time, like, I need to read this before. And it's the Elon Musk biography.
Elon Musk biography. Refresh my memory. What's his background?
He created PayPal, started Tesla, SpaceX, Solar City.
There's a book my brother recommended on investing that Warren Buffett says the only book you need to read on investing.
Oh yeah, it's by Adam Smith.
Adam Smith. It's like the keys of investing or something like that, or the Smart Investor or something like that. We're gonna pause while we Google this, and that's gonna happen. And then I wanted to insert a soundbite real quick before you said what I'm gonna read next. I want to say, if you can edit this in, I want to say, but enough about me. What are you looking to read next, Jacob? And then you can edit that. Anyways, since we're gonna pause, and you're gonna have to edit that anyways. Sorry for being so rude.
No, that's all right. No.
Corey ten Boom thing. But it's a fantastic book. You should really read it.
The Intelligent Investor by Benjamin Graham.
I have that book. Okay, yes. So that is on my next list, actually.
So you want to start over on that one?
Yeah.
All right.
Benjamin Graham, right?
Yeah, so say that's the next.
Okay. I'm happy you asked that. I'm really excited to read. My next book's going to be The Intelligent Investor by Benjamin Graham. I came up with it in a discussion with my brother. He said that Warren Buffett said it's the only book that anyone needs to read, and anybody who's anybody doesn't even have to know anything about investing. You could learn about investing by reading that book.
Yeah, I have that book.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you got to come and read it.
Okay.
It's really great.
Yeah. Okay. So good. That's just.
It's on my business thing. You seen it in the hallway?
Okay. Yeah. Yet another book that exists in your bookshelf that I didn't know was really.
I'll
good.
need my books back eventually.
Yeah, I know. I read them, and I got a stack of Jacob books just developing on my nightstand table that I've finished, but I don't give them. We meet so much, and I never grab them before I go out the door. It's really sad for somebody that's as organized as I am. I'm very just disheveled with my book returning. It's honestly, it's just a subconscious desire to not give up books. It's not active, but I'm like, I don't want to lose that book. It's mine now, you know. But I'll get back to it. Sorry. So what are you reading next?
Do you want me to answer now?
Yeah, I want to hear what you.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, you.
So ask me again. I'm sorry.
Okay. So, but that's what I'm reading next, and I'm really excited about that. What are you looking to read next?
My next book is a book that's been sitting on my bookshelf. I bought it. Excuse me, about 4 months ago.
Okay.
It's Elon Musk biography.
Oh, Elon Musk. Okay.
Yes, the guy who created PayPal, SpaceX, Tesla, Solar City. So
dang, that's going to be a good read, I think. That sounds like good nonfiction.
A little boy from Africa, South Africa.
Elon Musk. Okay, that's cool. Yeah, I don't know too much about him. I'd like to let me know how you like that.
Yeah, no, I will. But other than that, I think that's really it. That we should end this coffee talk.
Okay, cool.
I think these people want to sit down at this table and.
Yeah, hopefully this was entertaining. We can cut out the boring parts. And then we'll see you again next week. Thanks for tuning in again, and as always, keep reading.
Keep reading, guys.
How'd you like that?
Good. It was easy, flowing, just discussion. I'm gonna label.